What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 37 of TLDR Podcast. We got a good one coming up for you. Tradon's going to be talking hockey and the latest news from that. Then we're going to go to the NBA. Alex is going to talk about the All-Star break, and we're going to talk about kind of the teams that are in the top that might fall, and the teams that are coming from the bottom that might rise up. And then James is going to give us his NFC West division needs, just like we did with the AFC West last week. And then Eric's going to talk about golf for the first time in a while. The PGA Players Championship is this weekend, and so we'll be rounding it out with that. So let's check in with the boys. Eric, you were on your little bit of an all-star break here with the Clippers. How's that been going?
It's good. I finally was able to do shit for a little bit. I saw James. We went hiking, and then we went to this new brewery in Orange, and we put on the Angels game and golf. It was pretty ideal. And then James made me drink a bunch of beers and like take shots and then go play hockey with Tradon. So it was kind of hard to play hockey, but it was fun nonetheless.
Very nice. Tradon, how would you rate Eric's hockey skills at this point?
Dustin Brown, baby, top left.
He's
post.
solid skater. If you could skate, you're an all-star in my book. So that's half the battle right there.
Yeah. And Tradon, how you been doing?
I'm good. Some life changes personally, and then watching this NHL season unfold. It's just a roller coaster, especially when you're looking at my team that can't beat fantastic teams but can throttle bad teams. It's an interesting period in my life right now.
Very good. Alex, Kings just tied it against the Ducks. We're 2-2, just started the second period. I'm sure you got this game on. How are you feeling about our Kings, and how are you doing overall?
Yeah, I do have the game on, but my feed's a little slow, so
Eric just spoiled it.
Eric, tone it down. No, you're good. But it's all good because Dustin Brown is on my fantasy team, so that's going. Other than that, it's great. Did a little wine tasting this weekend. Beautiful weather up here, so yeah, can't complain.
Beautiful. And James, man, how you feeling about your Ducks in this game? It's been a great one so far, back and forth. Loving the battle. And then how are you doing?
The Ducks suck. So the fact that they're kind of in competition with the Kings right now is fantastic. We're up 1-0, then got tied, then we're up 2. And now it's tied again. So it's going to be a back and forth kind of thing. I'm doing pretty good. Got to see Eric, got to see Trayden. I've never met Alex before in my life in person, and Tyler, I haven't seen you in months.
Yeah.
But hanging out with the guys, chilling, drinking some beers, playing some NHL. Destroyed Eric. That's why I had to take multiple shots. But yeah,
destroyed
weekend. Destroyed Eric. Yeah, that's why I had to take multiple shots.
We went 1-1. We went to overtime both games, I thought.
Destroyed Eric is what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Well, boys, we got a great show coming up for you. Stick around, and we're going to get into Eric or Tradon's NHL segment. All right, everyone, welcome back. All of us right now, we're doing this podcast, are watching hockey. Most of us watching the Kings Ducks. I'm sure Tradon's got his eyes on some other game going on right now, as he always does. So Tradon, let's dig into it. Let's get into another great hockey segment. What do you got for us this week?
Let's do it. Look, I'm excited to see how your guys' game kind of unfolds. It's a kind of a 3-on-1 thing, and I really could give a shit who wins because neither team is in my division, so I really don't care. I just like chaos. So the more goals and the more back and forth it is, the better it is. So we'll start with the NHL fantasy as we do. I lost to Jess. Jess got a win, so we're both there. Eric, you handedly beat Mike Brown. That was blowout. James, bro. You got freaking what do you call it? Snubbed again or snake bitten again. I mean, you have a great week, but you just get beat by the best player of the week.
Yeah,
How do you
man.
feel about that?
Thank you.
Terrible. I hate you, Alex.
And by the way,
it's also terrible. It's also Tyler, man. The goalie thing is just weird. I don't like that.
Hey,
I scored the second highest amount of points, like second week in a row, and I lost 2 weeks in a row. Avs to win the second highest amount. I play the best guy every single week. What's up with that?
That's rough.
Alex's team is actually legit though, so I don't feel too bad about that.
It is.
But I think I lost to Tyler last week, and I was like, dude, this is a shit team.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alex, you just continue to dominate. 2 wins in a row, 7-1, just continue to dominate.
Thank you.
And then Tyler, you completely killed Kylie. Wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. It was over at the first
5-3 as
minute.
well. The standings are kind of interesting. We got a 2-way battle for first between Eric and Alex. Both teams, you guys are killing it. James and Tyler are both 5-3, tied for third, and then I'm tied for fifth at 500. We'll just move on. Stuff that I actually give a shit about, to be honest.
Mike Brown could have scored like 300 extra points on me, by the way. He sat his goalies out like 3 days in a row. They all had like 80 points every time he sat them out.
If you learn anything from my segment today, ladies and gentlemen, play your goalies. We're gonna start this week. We're gonna start with the turmoil in Buffalo. Look, there's one team in Buffalo that is fantastic, and that's the Buffalo Bills. They are one of the best. They are fantastic. Hold
up, real fast. Did Alex meet Josh Allen this weekend?
No, it's this upcoming weekend.
Okay. Next weekend.
I'll keep you guys updated.
Yeah, definitely keep us updated. But on the other flip of the other side of the coin in Buffalo, there's the Buffalo Sabres who are sorry. They're bad. Look, this team was gifted the second overall pick in 2015 in what I consider the sweepstakes draft. They drafted Jack Eichel just behind Connor McDavid. They did lose out on the lottery that year to the Edmonton Oilers. So I don't feel sorry for you, but you did get Jack Eichel, which is one of the best consolation prizes you could have gotten. But the team has not made the postseason since Jack Eichel has been on the team. They haven't made the postseason since I believe 2011. And it's been terrible ever since. The team has spent a lot in the offseason. They brought in Taylor Hall on a 1-year deal. We talked about him in our previews. Even Tyler, you're bang on. You did not have any faith in them, and they're playing worse than they did last year. And I gave them credit, like they were going to actually improve, and they're actually worse. They signed a $9 million per year deal with Jeff Skinner last year. Hall has scored a whopping 2 goals. Eichel has scored a whopping 2 goals. And Jeff Skinner was scratched 3 times in a row. To me, at that point, it's personal. There's obviously something going on between the coach and Jeff Skinner. I mean, you can't tell me that a veteran is worse than an AHL player, but that is what it is. And also we have a coach that is not in sync with his star player, Jack Eichel. They just don't, either there's something going on there. Jack Eichel saying he was hurt in a game prior, the coach coming out and saying he was actually hurt in a warm-up game. So there's some turmoil going on in Buffalo. So I ask you, James, I ask you to take a look at this team. Look, they're sitting here. They're at the depths. They're worse than they were last year. The top scoring just can't do it. Is it time to even consider trading Jack Eichel and just blowing everything up?
Yeah. Yes, I really think so. 100%. A lot of times when there's turmoil and there's some friction between a star player and the head coach, that doesn't ever get mended. That'll be there forever and ever and ever until one of them leaves. But for Buffalo's sake, they're going to get more out of it if they trade away Eichel than if they cut the coach.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's invest in your future. This is not going to fix itself. Buffalo has a great fan base, great people all around there. It just sucks that they've sucked for so long and they were looking for a payoff and it just never came. Yeah. Like you mentioned, Jack Eichel was second overall in 2015 and Rasmus Dahlin was first overall in 2018. Those are 2 very high picks and it just hasn't paid off. And I think it might be the coaching staff. They're not doing their job, making people mesh. They're bringing in great additions. Taylor Hall did really well in Arizona last year, and he was supposed to come in and have this 1-year deal, prove a deal. He was supposed to come in, do really well, play his best, so then he can get a better contract next year. And it's not happening. And it's like no fault of his own. He's probably playing his best, but there's something there that we can't see. And it's unfixable at this point. If you trade away, like I mentioned before, trade away Jack Eichel, he's young. He's 24 years old. He's an elite talent. He has so many years blow it up, send him away, get a ton of picks, get a lot of resources, start sagging for the future. Once you hit him away, cut your coach too. Why not? Start a brand new blank slate. Everybody's gone.
I love it.
Get a new team.
I love it. We're going to talk about the coaching stuff in my fourth segment with Tyler. So I will circle back to that when we kind of talk about that. But I actually agree with you, and I'll tell you why then. But I agree with you. It's time to blow this up. Jack Eichel I don't think that he's the problem. But there's obviously some issues there. They haven't been able to get it done. They just can't build the team around. I think that a GM change could be in order as well. But I'm going to leave this segment with a very hot take, and I'm going to say this as an Oiler fan who had Taylor Hall on his squad back in the day when they drafted him. I think that Taylor Hall is one of the most overrated NHL players in the National Hockey League. Every team that he has played for has been at the depths of the standings, except for 1 year he made it to the playoffs with New Jersey, and he won the Hart Trophy, which in my opinion probably could have been a little questionable, but he did do a fantastic job that season. But look at what he's done. He's done absolutely nothing. I even heard rumblings back when he was in Edmonton that he was a major problem inside the locker room and outside of the arena. I think he's an overrated hack. Not a hack, but he's an overrated player. He's not who he thinks he is, and I don't think he is anything who we think he is. So I don't think he's deserving of anything higher than $8 million what he has now, and I'd be shocked if anyone signed him over that because I think he's a bit overrated. But that's my hot take today. Thank you, James. I'm moving on. Alex, I told you to take a look at this. Patrick Kane scored his 400th goal last week. He became the 100th player in NHL history to reach that. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric, you had a question. You got to speak up. I don't like the whole text thing. Just say it.
Yeah, just interrupt like I
Say it
always
with
do.
your chest.
Well, I'm not going to ruin anything, Alex. Fuck.
Thanks.
Chaos.
I didn't say anything.
But well, yeah, that's a hot take on Taylor Hall. That probably has something to do with a lot of shit going there. But should they have ever made Jack Eichel the captain there? I feel like
He's been the captain for years.
What?
He's been the captain for years.
No, I know. Should he have been the captain though? Ever? Like, I feel like he doesn't have that. Like, look at everything that's been going on every year. They keep firing the coach. They keep changing all this shit. He remains captain. They get worse. Like at some point, you need to look at the leadership of your captain and be like, "This. Do we need to change this?"
That's a very, very interesting take. I haven't really considered that, but I think that to Buffalo's credit, they were gifted an all-star. Like they were gifted a superstar, and you'll do anything to keep him happy. That's kind of how it goes in the NHL and in any sport. I mean, that's what they do. But you're absolutely right. Maybe Jack Eichel is not captain material. He's not a Jonathan Toews or a Kopitar or a insert crazy good captain here, Sidney Crosby.
But has anybody ever come out and said, "I don't like Jack Eichel as a teammate"? Because I've never heard that.
I haven't heard that.
And typically, if you have a bad leader on your team, that's what you hear.
That's true. That is very true. So it's an interesting take. There's definitely two sides of that. I like both of your takes. It's something that we can think about. To be honest with you, Eric, I think that any team he goes to he is at least going to be an assistant captain. But depending on where he goes, like if he ends up in Seattle or something, he probably is going to be the captain there. I don't think he's going to be there, but who knows? That was a good question. So moving on, Patrick Kane, as I mentioned, scored his 400th goal of his career last week. He's the 100th player in NHL history to join this club, the 400 goal club. He sits sixth all-time for overall production by a U.S.-born player and is the only athlete still active within that top 10. So he's the real deal. Alex, I told you to take a look at this. Kind of let's reflect. Let's give appreciation to Patrick Kane. First of all, short term, do you think he's running? Do you think he puts his name in for the Hart, given his crazy season this year so far?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. We talked about it in our preview segments. None of us had the Blackhawks making the playoffs. I don't believe so. Nope. He's had an amazing season. They're currently I think they're in the fourth spot right now in the whatever division it's called. So yeah, I think
Central.
I can't remember what any of they're called. He's definitely put his name in for a Hart Trophy. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's sitting with 38 points in 26 games on a team that we didn't think was going to be that great. We knew he was going to, it was going to run through him, but we also thought that he was going to start to slow down. Does anybody think he's ever going to slow down? And this guy may never, ever slow down. It's amazing. And congratulations to him. He will be playing his 1,000th game in the NHL this week. But here's an even bigger question for you, Alex. Is Patrick Kane the best American-born hockey player to have ever lived?
Right now, no. I think he's number 2. Just to go over some of Patrick Kane's accomplishments, though. So 3-time Cup winner, Calder Trophy, Hart Trophy, Art Ross Trophy, Conn Smythe Trophy. That's pretty much all the big ones. Like, you kind of got a clean sweep with all the big ones right there. He was the best player on those 3 Cup wins, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Disrespect to Jonathan Taves, because I fucking hate that guy. So, like, actually no respect to him. But I think Chris Chelios is probably the overall greatest American player right now. I think Patrick Kane, if he can continue to score and play at this level going into his mid and then late 30s, has a really great chance. Just to kind of put it in perspective, so Chelios, 7th all-time in NHL games played. He has 948 points for a defenseman. That's a lot. And he has a plus 351. Holy crap, in his career, plus 351. So I do think that Patrick Kane will get there. I think he's still got a lot left in the tank, obviously, as we're talking about him as a Hart Trophy candidate this year. And then other than that, I also just want to shout out Jonathan Quick, greatest American goalie of all time.
Oh yeah, that I can get behind.
I
would say Miller. I would also throw Miller into that.
I throw Miller in there.
But I agree with you more recently. Look,
I have a stupid hockey question first.
What was that, James?
I have a stupid hockey question.
Oh yeah, what's up?
What's the Hart Trophy?
The Hart Trophy is the MVP of the season.
MVP. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's the one
Not
where you
the
scored the
biggest
most?
one or anything. It's not the most
That's the
valuable.
Art Ross.
Art Ross, yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. So in regards to him being the best American-born hockey player, I love the Chris Chelios pick. I think it's kind of a 1A, 1B. I can't really pick, but I'm gonna give it to Patrick Kane. I'm gonna give him my love for that spot because of his points per game. He does rank 6th in overall points by an American-born hockey player, but he has the highest points per game among those 6. So that's pretty impeccable. He's almost at 1.1 point per game in his career. That is insane to maintain that pace through the depths of Chicago to when they came up to when they're coming back down again. But I mean, if Chris Chelios could easily take that spot, so I don't think that's a bad take at all. I love that. But moving on, we're actually going to talk about the Blackhawks this year. The Blackhawks are performing very, very well this year. They sit 4th in the division in the Discover Central, and they have a pretty decent lead ahead of the Blue Jackets, which are in 5th. They're doing fantastic. Eric, I asked you to take a look at this team. They do currently sit 4th in the division. That means they would make the playoffs today. Can they finish this and make the playoffs? Because we never expected that. None of us here expected them to be there.
No, they will not make the playoffs. Today they would, but in the future they're not going to. They were kind of in this situation last year. They're like right on the edge. They were, close to making it, but when you looked at it like mathematically last year, there wasn't really a chance. And then the world ended. When the world ended, then we got that little, exceeding format for the NHL playoffs, which they ended up squeezing in. And you must hate them now because then they dismantled your Oilers, unfortunately. But I think similar to last year, like they're on this like little hot streak right now. They're playing well, but I think it's going to run out. Looking at their standings, they're only 2.5 games above the Blue Jackets. If there's any team that's always on the edge of making the playoffs that squeezes in at the right time, it's them with Tortorella. Also, you look at the Dallas Stars who are in their division. They have played 6 less games due to COVID stuff.
Yep.
So they're going to be making up games. I think the Stars are a team that can win a bunch of games in a row and go on a streak and also squeeze in for that spot. So it's going to be tough to battle those two teams to get that last spot. Like, they have to keep doing well the rest of the season if they want to get in the playoffs. I just don't think they will. And I'm hoping they don't, because fuck the Blackhawks. I'll agree with Alex. Fuck Taze. Kind of fuck Kane too. I guess we can kind of like him because he's from the US of A, but I don't want to see them in the playoffs again. If the Kings don't make the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs either, because they're kind of in that similar situation of the Kings. They still have their vets that they paid off for long years that they deserve from those cup runs, and they're kind of like rebuilding at the same time while trying to make playoffs. So how about this? If they make the playoffs, the Kings make the playoffs. And if they don't make the playoffs, the Kings will still somehow make the playoffs. It just has to happen, okay? But I don't think they're going to make it, just because the Blue Jackets and the Stars, one of those teams is going to squeeze into that last spot.
Yeah, I mean, so if you guys look at my power rankings, I kind of really look at point percentage for the most part. And James posts these, and I know he reads them. I talk about that almost every single team. The Chicago Blackhawks have a 596 point percentage, well above Dallas and Columbus. But to your point, Eric, I actually don't think Columbus is going to make the playoffs, but I think that Dallas can make the playoffs, and they're going to be the ones to give them the run, because on paper, I think the Dallas Stars are the better team. I do think that Dallas is facing some issues with, I mean, they had some COVID scare early on. They were the last team to really start playing hockey. They faced a lot, and they faced the crazy turmoil with the freeze in Texas that did impact them. So I think that they're just facing a lot of this shit, and eventually it's there's 3 bad things, or 2 or 3 bad things are finally going to turn the other way now that everything's kind of calmed down. So I won't say that Chicago won't make the playoffs, because they've done a very good job in the last 10 games here to establish themselves up there. But I watch out for Dallas, because once they actually start to sit their footing down and calm down, I think that they're a team that can definitely come in there. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Kevin Lankinen, their rookie goalie. The kid is at a .919 save percentage through his 17 games played. That's fantastic. That is a recipe for success. And
got him in fantasy.
We did not know what we were going to get in their goaltending, and he is doing fantastic. So I'll give him a shout out there. Thank you, Eric. And then finally, I want to talk about coaching. 2 coaches have been fired this season so far. Claude Julien was the first of the coaches finding himself fired. That one was, I think, because of the fact that Montreal had paid the most money in the NHL in the offseason, and were playing in what was definitely considered an easier division than what they normally play in. And they completely fell off a cliff after those first few games. And then we saw Jeff Ward of the Calgary Flames get fired shortly behind his team putting up a touchdown and the extra point last Saturday. I think it was last Saturday. And they hired Daryl Sutter, someone very familiar to 4 of us here, which kind of was crazy, but Calgary has not just kind of been spinning their tires as well. So I guess I'm not too surprised. But Tyler, I asked you to kind of look at this this question. Who do you think is deserved or is going to face the hot seat of the boot, so to speak, next? Are we going to see another firing this year?
Probably. I got 4 candidates for you.
Give it to me.
So the first one I got is Travis Green with Vancouver Canucks. You look at this team; they're not performing up to expectations. They were one of the best bubble teams over the summer, and virtually brought back most of their players. Their biggest blow was Chris Tanev not being a part of that team, and I wonder if that's been a bigger loss for them than they expected. This team kind of seems to just lack chemistry. They just don't seem to be clicking. So I don't really know if it's more on Travis Green's side or if it's the GM, Jim Benning. who constructed this team. It seems like they're kind of both a little bit to blame. But I think he is one of the coaches on the hot seat. The second one I got for you is John Hines of Nashville. They're struggling to score, and it's kind of weird because they have one of the best Corsi ratings in the league. So they possess the puck great, but they just can't seem to find the back of the net. Their inconsistency is a really big problem with this team. Since Hines took over last season, he's only got about a 500 record with this team overall, which isn't good enough. I think this Nashville Predators team is much better than that on paper. The third guy I got is Ralph Krueger of Buffalo. We kind of talked about Buffalo earlier and how much of a hot mess they are. You've got to throw in the coach for that. One of the worst scoring teams in hockey. Like I said, I think the biggest issue is not getting enough from their star players, Hall, Eichel, and Skinner. I mean, those guys combined, I think, have 4 goals or something like that. Something stupid like that. That's just not going to cut it. Like if your star players aren't playing like stars, that's a problem. So, and then the fourth guy I got for you is David Quinn of the New York Rangers.
Wow.
I think this is another team that I believe has underperformed this season. I had them actually making the playoffs in our preseason rankings. I think this team has a ton of talent, and they're not scoring as much as they should. They're actually kind of pretty similar to what Buffalo is scoring right now, which is not good. I think this Rangers team is much better than that. They do not have a good Corsi rating. They just don't seem to be clicking on any side of the puck. And there's been questions with him on his management of Lafreniere, and that he hasn't been on one of the top lines, which I think if this guy's going to be your guy moving forward, he should be part of that top line and getting those reps with those top guys. So I think those are my 4 guys. If you're asking me to pick one, I think Kruger is the obvious choice. But I think in my gut's going to tell me, I think Nashville's going to part ways with John Hines. I think that this Nashville team should be doing a lot better than it is. And they've given him, a season and a half. I know it's kind of been kind of weird with COVID and all that stuff, but he's had multiple different seasons to kind of figure it out. And he just hasn't been able to figure it out yet. So for me, I believe that Josh Hines is going to be the next coach to get fired.
Was he from the Devils?
No, he's the Sabres. Oh yes. No, Ralph Krueger.
No,
it wasn't Hines
John
once
Hines.
with the Devils.
Yes, John Hines was with the
He
Devils.
was the mid-season high, right?
Yeah.
Last season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he went from the Devils, who weren't doing great. Like he didn't manage a good team, and so how did he get the job in Nashville?
Hey,
what made him stick out?
I guess they look at. I mean, if you look at what he's done, I mean, he's okay defensively, and maybe that's what the Predators were looking at. But offensively, his team's been ranked 29th. When he was with New Jersey, they were ranked 29th. I mean, they're not offensively sound, and we've had this conversation. Defense works so much, but you have to fucking score. I mean, that's just it. So James, that's a great question. I don't even know. Maybe they thought a little bit of change of scenery with a different team is going to change some things. You just never know. But that's a good question. I like those picks, Tyler. I mean, I think those are 4 great candidates. As for Ralph Krueger, he was an Edmonton Oilers coach, and many thought that he was fired early. Like he was fired within a half a season. And everyone thought that he just got kind of the short end of the stick. He went and did some management with some soccer in England, and he came back. He was kind of an out of the box hire, and everyone was very championing this new out of the box hiring. And here's the issue. I don't think he's that effective. I think that the Edmonton Oilers clearly saw it. And look, like I said, I really don't mind if you sit your one of your top players 1 or 2 games. I mean, one game, it's a message. 2 games, it's a lesson. It's a slap on the ass. You need to do something. But a 3rd game straight, that's personal. There's some issues there. So I think that he's lost a connection with his team. And I think that he definitely should be on the way out. Dallas Eakins kind of is on the hot seat, I think, as well. I mean, they have no offense, and guess what, Dallas Eakins, you fuck. You didn't do it in Edmonton, and you still can't do it in fucking Anaheim. Just hang up the skates, bud, because you can't fucking do it.
I agree.
I don't feel bad about firing him now.
I want him gone.
With that said, that was another hot take, but who knows? I'm a little hot after that one. Take it away. That's the NHL.
Love it. We're melting the ice with all these hot takes. Tradon, awesome as always. Love talking hockey with you. Currently, I know everyone's listening is eager to know what's going on with the game because you're listening to it live. But it's 4-3 Anaheim right now, late in the second period. So that game's going, and it's a great one. It's a great fucking game. Love hockey. We're gonna take a quick break for you, and we're gonna go to basketball. And Alex is gonna lead us another NBA segment. Stick around.
Yep.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking basketball. We're doing a little bit different this time. The All-Star break, just how we had the All-Star game. Team LeBron won again, I believe, for the fourth consecutive year. We're going to talk about kind of teams that are in the top upper part of the league that might drop, and teams that are on the bottom that might rise. Also, by the way, the Ducks scored again, so it's fucking 5-3. So, god damn it. But Alex, take it away.
Yeah, so I decided to change it up because the NBA is on pretty much like a week-long break, except for 20 guys. So we're changing up a little bit, but some news and notes. So Team LeBron did win, beat Team Durant. Sabonis won the skills challenge. Anthony Simons from the Trailblazers won the dunk contest, and Steph Curry won the 3-point contest. It feels a little unfair to have him in it, but. Yeah,
upset.
the greatest 3-point shooter of all time won the 3-point contest. What a surprise! And then another big thing happened over this little break. So Blake Griffin, formerly of the Clippers and of the Detroit Pistons, was bought out, and then now he is signed with the Brooklyn Nets. So that will be interesting to see how that goes. So they now have 4 All-Stars on that team. They haven't played together much. Not All-Stars this year, former All-Stars.
Yeah, Blake Griffin's washed.
We'll see what happens, but they don't really need him to be Blake Griffin. They just need him to play some defense.
Jake Griffin.
Because their defense is trash. Absolute garbage. But hey, if they score 150, there you go. That'll be interesting. Keep an eye on that. But because there's less kind of like day-to-day, kind of things to go over in the NBA with the All-Star break. And now that the All-Star break's over and we're moving on to the second half of the season, I thought it's time to kind of look at some surprise teams and some teams that are maybe struggling that we think can kind of rise up in the rankings. So the boys all pick some teams. We're going to go through them one at a time. James, so you had the Warriors and the Heat. I'm going to let you pick which one you want to talk about first, if you want to go negative or positive. And then, boys, if you think James says something stupid, feel free to interrupt him and tell him so.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. I love arguing. We're going to go positive first. So I'm going to take the Warriors and argue why they make the top 6 when they're currently the number 8 seed. So this entire year, from the get-go, since Tradon had his little rants about how the Warriors were going to be terrible this year, I'd be like, yeah, I think the Warriors are going to make it. And I've been the biggest Warriors fan, apologist, ever since that point, and I'm sticking to it. Looking at their roster, they don't look like they have a good team. They got Steph. That's it. But the way that system works makes people who aren't that good shine. It's very much a game based off team chemistry and ball movement and unselfishness and knowing like where people are going to be at all times. The Warriors are in the eighth spot right now because they haven't played together all that much. They've had so many injuries where people are in and out of the lineup. They're big guys. They went on like a stretch of 12 games where the big guys didn't even play. Their big was Draymond Green for 12 games, and they managed to win some of those games. Like I mentioned before, they need team chemistry to do well, and the more they play together, the better their team chemistry will be, the better their team will be. That's how Steve Kerr's offense works. Looking down the stretch of late, their offense looks so much better. The last couple of games, the last couple of weeks, they haven't lost a lot of games. And the ones they have lost, it's been very, very, very close. And also, when you have Steph Curry, it's really hard to count them out. Did you guys see the All-Star game? Him and Dan were just pulling from half court and nailing it from half court. So if they were down like a lot, he can just do that, bring him back in. And, he's going to will that team to number 6 spot. Go Warriors.
Nah, they're going to be like a 7th or 8th seed. and they're like the Blackhawks. They're like the Blackhawks. They're gonna have to battle every game. The games they are winning, they're winning by like 2 points. They're not like blowing teams out. They're not dominating teams. Every game is going to be a battle for them. The luck is going to run out, and I don't really think they're that consistent of a team. I think Steph Curry has been more consistent, but it's kind of like what you said. There's a lot of guys in and out of the lineup, guys that are like, G League guys stepping up. I just don't think they're going to have the consistency, and I think they're going to struggle to be in that 8th spot. They are going to give – a battle. They probably will make the playoffs. They'll give a battle for that whoever team plays them. But I don't see them winning a playoff series, and I see them like in the 8th seed struggling to keep on to it. I'm actually going to disagree with that, in that saying not blowing out teams is an issue, because I think that the fact that they can win, 2-point, 3-point nights, and they're learning it now, they're getting ready for playoff. They're playing playoff basketball right now. So they're going to be ready for playoffs. They're more so than any other team, like your Lakers who just blow teams out, or your Clippers who just blow teams. If I was a Clippers fan, I'd be fucking worried that they might play the Warriors in the playoff series. And I bet you that they would win.
Trading
who would win?
Are you saying
the Warriors over the Clippers any day, bud?
In a 7-game series?
Yeah, I do.
Let's bet $90,000. Actually, not that much, but
okay. If that happens, 50. I do think you guys will have to make some sort of bet.
I couldn't legally.
You're actually allowed to do that, yeah. But I don't agree. I agree with Eric. I don't think that they can push into that top 6, and purely it's because they just cannot play consistent basketball. They've only won 3 games in a row once all season. They win 2, they drop 2. They win 1, they drop 1. They can't go on any sort of roll. And also, if you look at the teams ahead of them, I think they are where they are. I think the other 9 teams ahead of them, or 7 teams ahead of them, are much better basketball teams than they are. So I don't think the Warriors can get into that top 6. I do think Steph is a dark horse MVP candidate, just like Patrick Kane, though, with the season that Steph's having.
I don't even say dark horse. I think he's the favorite.
You think he's the favorite? That's interesting. Interesting.
So, okay, here's a question for this is actually going back to mine, Alex.
Yeah.
Kinda. The Warriors don't make the playoffs, or Blackhawks don't make the playoffs. Are either of those two able to get an MVP award?
Fire everybody.
It's you have to play unbelievable basketball to win an MVP and not make the playoffs. So if they don't make the playoffs, and I think they'll be in that bottom 4 where they have to play that stupid play-in thing we talked about a couple weeks ago. If they magically get into then the top 8, maybe. But yeah, if they don't make it into that top 6, I don't think he can win it. I just think there's too much competition, but we'll have to see.
The biggest question is, does a non-playoff team worthy of an MVP? Like, does a player?
Yeah, I mean, there are cases where that's true. They'll never win though. Like it won't happen. That's just the way the NBA works. Okay, moving on. Eric, you also picked the Warriors. I don't know if you were. It sounds like you were pretty negative. Did you have?
That's pretty much. Yeah, everything I said about everything I rebutted with James is kind of what I had.
It kind of worked
going
out
with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to move past that.
So I want to be negative about it.
It's okay. I like that. I mean, I was with you. So, Ty, you had let's move over. I'm going to make you pick one first. So we talked about the West already. So you picked the Washington Wizards. We were down on them pretty much all season. I'm going to assume, as they're in the bottom part of the Eastern Conference, you think that they have a chance to make a run.
I do. This is a Wizards team that I think did have some level of expectations coming into this season, just because that Eastern Conference is not as strong, and there's just a lot of teams in that bottom part of the league, with these expanded playoffs that, maybe they could possibly, get there. And they're playing pretty. I think they're playing their best basketball going into this break that they have all season. They were 7-3 in their last 10 games, rolling into the All-Star break. Westbrook is playing a lot better. It kind of seemed like he was a little bit lost in that system. I think he's playing of the Russell Westbrook of old. Bradley Beal's a stud. I mean, he's a guy that goes out there every night and just absolutely balls. And like I said, I think their best case is that, that bottom half of the Eastern Conference is not that strong. And I think that, if they can put together some pieces here, I think that they can make a run. They're only 2.5 games out of that 10th spot, which gets them into one of those play-in games. So I think if there's any team that's going to come from the bottom up, it's going to be the Washington Wizards in the Eastern Conference.
Do you think Bradley Beal's production is sustainable? The dude's putting up 30-plus points a night, being the only real scoring option, because we all know that Brody he's inconsistent. The dude airballs free throws. Like, he's not a consistent point scorer anymore. He is athletic as shit, and he'll get you rebounds, he'll get you assists, but he does turn the ball over. Pretty much the success of the Wizards lies on Bradley Beal. Is this production sustainable for the rest of the season? It's
going to have to be. I mean, if they're going to have a chance, he's going to have to be their guy. And I'm not saying that this Wizards team is going to come out and probably win a playoff game, but I think they definitely got a chance to sneak in there and be one of those bottom teams. But you're right. I mean, this team lacks a lot of depth. They're not playing very well at all. But I just see it as of late. I think they've been playing better. I think Westbrook has started to aid Beal a little bit more. I think he's been playing better. So if they can get consistent play both out of Westbrook and if Beal continues that level of production, I don't see why this Wizards team can't sneak in.
Okay, question for you, and this could be really quick. If they sneak in, which one of those bottom teams, Raptors, Bulls, Pacers, Hornets, fall out?
Well, I also think that the Bulls are in one of those spots right now. I'm not really sold on the Chicago Bulls. So I think the Chicago Bulls is going to be that team that's going to fall.
Okay. I can understand that. I don't think the Wizards are going to do what you think they are, but I can understand your take. Moving on, Tradon. Pick whichever one of your teams you want to go with.
Well, I kind of looked at it where I picked the Hornets of getting out of the bottom four of the playoff teams and making it to the bye. What do you call them? Bye. Let's call it a bye, right? Let's call it a bye.
Sure.
And I have no other reasoning besides they're just going to play basketball and throw spaghetti at the wall and fucking go for it. I mean, they're in that kind of position. I mean, those types of teams to me are dangerous because they're facing the same type of shit. They can't practice. They can't get teams together for the video. They're learning everything off the fly. And that's the kind of thing. And the coach is not making any crazy changes to make them push forward, but this is the kind of team that's just learning with what they have and learning their new system, their new players, all these, LaMelo Ball's playing like 29 minutes a game. He's playing a lot of minutes. That's good for those type of guys. And I just think that if it's those kind of teams that if they catch wind, they catch fire, they just kind of get going and upset some teams. And they don't really have anything to lose. So I only picked them because the other guys picked other teams that were probably better answers than mine. I picked them because I would love to see them, be that team that just upsets and pushes a team that probably is more deserving on paper to be in the top, the top 6 or whatever. And I'm just gonna say that they're going to play flexible. They're just going to communicate with the team. They're going to come together and they're going to do some upsetting because that's the position they can be in.
This has nothing to do with the conversation. But I absolutely hate the Hornets floor with that gross ass green, purple ass shit. I hope they don't make the playoffs. So I don't have to look at it.
You say their court?
Yeah, the court.
Dude, the court's great.
No, it's disgusting. It's the worst. It's the worst thing to happen to basketball in years.
Is it worse than the Nets one, which is like gray and it makes you look like you're watching black and white?
That too. It should be any wood floor should be the color of wood. It could be dark, light. I don't give a shit. You can do a little bit of trim of a color, but don't make the whole floor like whatever color. Like it's wood.
See,
make it wood.
The thing about this is that they did really great marketing because their floor evoked an emotion out of you, and now that emotion makes you relate to the Hornets, and now you think about the Hornets every single floor. Like,
I guess
see what happens. It's a good marketing technique.
There you go.
I disagree.
And they're simply going to make the playoffs just to smite you now. And B, I forgot to say as another reasoning as to why they might do well is from what I hear from TLDR podcast boys, the East kind of sucks. So that kind of helps.
That does help.
So the carpet matches the drapes.
So does their floor.
Okay, let's move forward. My team that I think is going to drop out of the top 6, and this might be kind of a shocker, is the Boston Celtics. They did win 4 in a row coming into the All-Star break, but they have 2 players. Both of them are on my fantasy team, which is part of the reason why I'm killing in that. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are killing it, but their depth is being tested. And when they play any of these other teams with elite big men, they're getting destroyed. They do not have enough help inside to defend any of these teams. I think that the other teams in this lower kind of tier of the Eastern Conference have a good chance of catching them. I was big on the Celtics early on, and I have almost no faith that they can go deep into the playoffs. If you guys have anything to say, let me hear it. If not, we're going to keep going through our...
I'm just going to eat my words because I was just saying like that they're on the downhill trend, and then they just beat the Clippers and then went on a 4-game winning streak, of course. But I agree with you. Like I think they've shown to be a strong team the last few years, and I feel like their window's closing and they don't seem as good. They are getting destroyed by teams with the big men that dominate the paint. So when you just get worked like that in the paint, you don't have what it takes to win in the playoffs.
I like that. Okay, moving on. We're going to go through it again. So James, your second team was the Heat. Go ahead.
The Heat right now are in the 6th spot, I believe, after being not anywhere close the majority of the year. They're going to drop out, and I think they might not even make the playoffs. Actually, retract that. They'll make the playoffs because that play-in, the 10 seed kind of thing.
Yeah.
The theme of the year for them is underperformance. That's gone on all year long. They struggled out of the gate. They did not do well. In my opinion, I've said this before multiple times, but they've kind of rested on the success that they had last year in the bubble. They haven't, they try to replicate it without changing anything, and it's just not working. Jimmy in the bubble looked MVP. He did so well. He had that one game against the Lakers where he had 30, 15, and 15. He did well. And this year, it's not consistent. It's just glimpses here and there. He needs to play like that every single day, which is unsustainable, Tyler, for that to happen. Right now, the team kind of relies more on the three-point shooting. They're playing more of a Warrior-style basketball where they just jack up threes, and they're relying on 2 young guys to do it. It's Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. They're good when they're hot, but oftentimes they're not, and they're shooting their team out of games. They're shying away from Bam and his athleticism, which kind of drove that success last season. Bam's a big man who's athletic. He's like a Blake Griffin V2 when Blake Griffin was in his prime, and they're not using him the way they should be. A lot of people are going to argue against me and say, hey, going into the All-Star break, they're going on this massive win streak where they won a ton of games in a row, and so they have all this momentum. And I'm like, dude, cool. You hit the All-Star break. You haven't played basketball in a week. They're going to come back from the All-Star break, and they're going to be just as slow and undermotivated and lackadaisical as they did at the beginning of the year. And that's what's going to kick him out of playoffs or kick him to the 10th seed.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you on that one, James. This is a team that made the NBA Finals, and virtually the same core of guys is back with this team. And yeah, they did get off to a very, very slow start, and they have not been playing to the level that I think they should be. But I think this recent run has proven that, I think they're finally starting to click, and I think that they will be a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference when it's all said and done. I just think this team's too good. I think, they took a long time to get started. Had a lot of kind of bad luck and things kind of not go their way early on, but I think the tides are turning a little bit there in Miami, and I think that they're going to be a top 6 team.
I'm gonna have to agree.
Hold on. One thing, I'm gonna rebuttal that. But so the recent win streak, that begs the question: is that a function of them getting better, or is it the function of teams are playing, getting tired and getting burnt out because it is going towards All-Star break? And we're playing for the 2021 NBA Finals here, the NBA Championship of 2021. Stop bringing up last year. Yeah, they're the same team, but if they haven't changed anything, they're not going to get any better. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. You're not getting it. Like, you can't rest on that same team and the same methods you did last season and expect the same results. The league is changing. Everybody's changing. Get better, or you're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah, they're not going to beat anyone in the playoffs.
But I mean, as terms of, you know, them playing teams that maybe weren't out or whatever, I mean, everyone's playing the same game. Everyone's playing this weird COVID sprint that, you know, and everyone's doing the same thing. So if you're winning in that, you're winning in that, and that should be good. You know, whether or not you're playing teams that are, you know, run down or not, you know, you still got to win ball games. Everyone's playing in the same league, so it's not like, you know, they're the Heat are, you know, are any more well off than teams with this, you know, kind of weird COVID season. So
they're playing in the same league, but they haven't played the same amount of games. So it's not, you can't compare the two.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, a lot of teams are going through that same stuff, and the stresses of the COVID season is what everyone's going through. And I think that the Heat early on definitely felt this thing, and that pretty greatly.
Yeah, correct.
It doesn't matter how you start, how you finish. And I think that they're playing super hot right now, and
it's not finishing. It's the middle of the season.
I understand that, but I'm saying that they're moving towards that. I think they're playing a lot better, and they're playing to the capabilities that I think most people had this Heat team making the postseason and definitely being a top 6 team. I still see them as a top 6 team.
To be fair, the Heat are 7-3 in their last 10, which means they have had a good 10-game split. Yeah. That said, I hope James is right, because I need the team for the Hornets to take over. So I hope you're right.
Hey, there you go, Tradon. I actually agree with Tyler on this one. They have been incredibly inconsistent. They've been hurt a lot. They had a bunch of COVID problems. They're coming together as a team. I can see James's points. I can definitely understand that. But I think as this break is going to help them. They've been injured. They've been inconsistent. This gives them rest. Remember, they had the Lakers, the shortest offseason in NBA history. Now they get a little bit of a rest, and then they can push through for the final little bit. I'm not saying that they're a contender to make the finals again, but I do think they'll be in that top 6 in the East. Okay, moving on. That one got a little more heated than I was expecting. Eric, the Suns were your second team. What do you got on Phoenix?
I think they almost dropped to a 6th seed. Look, they're a tough team. They're a problem for other teams to play. I also don't think that their chemistry is quite there. I think they played some good games. They've got a little luck going too. They're currently 2nd in the West, I believe. I don't see them finishing off 2nd in the West. I think it might be tough for them to finish in the top 4. I think they've had a lot of things going well for them. And, you know, I'm going to be the devil's advocate and say, like, it can only get worse from here. Like when we go golfing with Tradon, and he tells us that in the back 9. But, you know, I think they go on a little losing streak to start off their games after the All-Star break. Everything's just been going too well for them this year. CP3 is a vet. He's the reason they're in that 2nd seed right now. I don't think he has what it takes to just keep it going all the rest of this season. Like kind of what James was saying with Beal, like CP3 has to be consistent every night for them to be in this 2nd seed for the second half of the season. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they drop to a 5th seed. But yeah, I mean, they are somewhat of a wagon team. Booker seems like he kind of has like a little switch that gets flipped every now and then. I've noticed that this year. He kind of snaps on some players, obviously on the other team, but what if this guy like snaps on one of his own teammates, snaps on a coach? DeAndre Ayton, he's a good player. He seems like he's more like a about himself type of guy than the team. You know, come playoffs, what if he has a shitty night? He gets all mad. You know, he seems like he worries about himself more than the team. I think their chemistry needs to build. I think CP3 is the biggest reason where they are now. But, like, how much longer is that going to last for them? They're still going to be a tough team in the playoffs. I just don't think they stay in the 2nd seed. I think they drop to, like, a 4 or 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed. Who knows?
Interesting. Does anyone else have anything to say on the Suns before I jump in on that?
I agree with Eric. I mean, they're going to drop. They have a lot of cool things going for them on paper. But for a team that's won as much as they have, and the start like Chris Paul and D-Book, put them on the same team, theoretically set results. I just don't see that playing out long term. And when you start to play against teams that have more experience than Chris Paul is the only kind of guy that has experience on that team. When you start to play against teams that have more experience and it gets down the stretch, it's going to hurt you.
Interesting. I actually disagree. I think the Suns, they started off with, and D-Book and Chris Paul were not really meshing very well. D-Book is probably the best player that Chris Paul has played with that's not named James Harden. I think he's an elite scorer. I mean, he's dropped 70 before, so he can shoot. He can get to the line. With Anthony Davis out with the Lakers, maybe they drop as a 3 seed. I think the Clippers obviously are going to play better basketball than they have been. I think the Suns are a dangerous threat. I mean, look at what Chris Paul did with the Thunder last year. He brought a team of nobodies to a 5 seed, and this year he's got a former number 1 overall pick in DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. If they can shoot the basketball well from 3, I think the Suns have a good chance. I don't know if they're, championship material. I don't know if they can beat those LA teams or Utah in a 7-game series, but I still think they're going to be in that top 6. Moving on, Tyler. So we did the Wizards already. Now the Trailblazers.
Yeah, this one was a tough one. I think this Western Conference is so interesting, and it's so tightly packed. The reason I'm picking the Trailblazers to kind of follow that top 6 is mainly on the defensive side of the ball. They have the 29th ranked defense in the league right now, and that's got to be better when you're playing in this Western Conference. And it's honestly also more about the other teams that are behind them that I think are going to surge forward along with, the Trailblazers. Dame Lillard, we've talked about him a lot. I mean, this guy is an absolute stud, but I think everything runs through him. In basketball, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think your star players need to be your stars. I just think depth-wise, I don't think the Trailblazers are quite as complete as some other teams in the Western Conference. I think Denver is playing a lot better. I think that they're going to sneak up there. I think Dallas is starting to heat up a little bit, so I think that they'll sneak into a top 6 position. And the Spurs and the Warriors are also in the mix there too. I think there's just so much depth in this Western Conference, and I think that defense is a problem. And I think it's gonna eventually knock them out of that top 6.
I agree with you, and I'll tell you my reasonings in a little bit when I get to my last team, because it kind of plays in with that. But I totally get what you're saying. CJ McCollum's still hurt. That doesn't help either. Yeah. As that second half, that dynamic backcourt for Portland. So yeah, unless boys, you have anything else to say on Tyler's Trailblazers take? Okay.
Nailed it.
Moving on. So Tradon, very last one, the Denver Nuggets. Go ahead.
Yeah. Again, this is one that I kind of just picked because everyone else picked the better ones, and I didn't want to be completely like everybody else. I'm only going to say the Nuggets because of their inconsistency. I mean, they haven't had a problem with getting the lead early. I mean, we actually seen that, I think, in the bubble, and I think when I covered them, they would win the first quarter or two, but they would completely give it up. And they do that still this season. To be fair, they are on a 4-game winning streak going into the All-Star break that, I'll give them that, but I just don't like the consistency. I think that they're lacking a third option, which is important. I mean, I you guys say it all the time. You need like 3 bigs, and I guess I kind of know what that means now. And they don't have that. In February, their rebounding dropped to 28th, so they're not hungry, or they're not playing, strong enough defense trying to get the ball. I just don't like their inconsistent swings. I know that they've been kind of injured, and that could also play into the fact that they might fall below. So I think that's it. I just don't like how they're not able to complete games at all times. I mean, they are winning games. They're obviously above 500. but I just don't know if they get too kind of volatile and too kind of streaky. I think that could let them fall. Also, to James's point, we need someone to take the 6th spot, and the Warriors need a spot. So the Nuggets, someone's got to fall.
Okay, I like that too. They have been incredibly inconsistent. Nikola Jokic has been an MVP candidate, but their second guy, Jamal Murray, after an incredible postseason in the bubble last year, helped lead that team to the Western Conference Finals, has been, I'd say, iffy at best. He'll drop 35 points and then the next night have 7. You're like, dude, what are you doing? They have had a lot of injuries. In the beginning of this season, I thought Michael Porter Jr. was going to be that 3rd guy, and he's been hurt. He's had, I think he was out on the COVID list for a little bit. So that's part of it as well. And then, so you're both you and Tyler kind of nailed it with your last 2, which helps me out because my last one is the San Antonio Spurs. First of all, we talk about it all the time. You can't count out Greg Popovich. He's the best coach in the NBA. I don't really think there's much of debate about that. And we talk about depth on this podcast all the time. And the Spurs have some of the best depth scoring in the league. They have DeMar DeRozan, who is kind of an all-star snub, but they have 7 guys averaging double digits in points, which is unheard of in the NBA. It's usually kind of 2 or 3 guys who average, for good teams, average, upwards of 20 plus points a game. And then the rest of the guys are somewhere in, the 5 to 10 range. So I think the Spurs have a really good shot of overtaking both the Nuggets and the Trailblazers. And if Steph can lead the Warriors up there, maybe that will happen too. I don't really think so, but I do think the Spurs have a good shot. That Western Conference, though, could change very quickly. Any of these teams, really any of the teams that aren't in the bottom 4 right now could make the playoffs. So we'll have to see what happens. The trade deadline is coming up March 25th as well. So that could swing some things. We'll see guys get bought out by non-contending teams who are then, just like Blake Griffin, who are then available to sign with contending teams. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But Tyler, that's all I got for the NBA this week.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. That was a fun conversation. Always love talking basketball with you. So we're going to hear from our sponsor. When we come back, James is going to take us through the biggest needs from each team in the NFC West division. Welcome back, everybody. Last week, James took us through the biggest needs in the AFC West division in the NFL. This week, we're switching conferences. We're staying out west, going to the NFC. James, take it away.
All right, guys. Going to be the exact same format as last week. Hope you guys enjoy because we're doing it again. We're going to start off with the Seattle Seahawks. Finished first in the division this year, 12-4. Lost to the Rams in the playoffs. They currently have $6.1 million in their cap. Biggest storyline of this offseason, though, is Russ wants out. That's huge. That's your franchise player. He wants to get out of there. Since he's been in the league, he's the most sacked quarterback. Tradon, what is their biggest offseason need?
Well, I don't know. I would have to say, I mean, the offensive line is obviously an issue, but I don't know what they can do to fix that easily. They don't have very many resources. I actually think they need to focus on defense. Defensively, the team is not they're not the was it the 2012 Seahawks? I believe that was it 2012 that they were just absolutely insane.
Yeah, dude.
Remind me. Yeah, they're not that anymore at all.
Oh man, that team was dominant. And 2013
they're just not that anymore. They have a lot of high-level contributors that are going into free agency, and so they have to find ways to improve. I also their pass defense is the biggest question mark for me. So they got to find a way to improve the secondary. So maybe pick up a cornerback. There's a cornerback. There's a couple at the draft. But I would say, in the free agency, you could look at Gary and Conley. That'd be a good option. That's what I have. I think that their defense just needs to improve. I know that Russ has, I know that the offensive line is an issue. I just don't think they have enough resources to really fix that right away. They weren't terrible. I mean, in points for, they were 8th in terms of offense. They didn't have the greatest yardage rank, but they're below average in terms of defense. And I think that's where you got to start fixing your problems. You have a great quarterback, hopefully, and I think that's what you focus on first.
Tyler.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the O-line here. I think that they need some help to shore up that protection for Russell Wilson. I mean, well, first of all, make sure Russell Wilson comes back. Make sure that you appease whatever he needs to be able to stay in Seattle. I think that's priority number one for sure. And I think part of that problem is definitely fixing the O-line. I think KJ Wright is he's a player that's been on that team. He's a free agent. I think you should re-sign him. I think he was one of their best offensive linemen. And then
No, KJ Wright is a linebacker.
Oh, I fucked up. Shit.
Yeah, he's on the line, like the offensive line, right? Linebacker.
KJ Wright's definitely a linebacker.
I fucked up the line part. All right. Well, going into the free agent market, then Alex Mack of Atlanta. I think he's got a lot of veteran presence there that can help shore up that O-line for the Seahawks. They have a lot of free agents too. Shaquille Griffin and Chris Carson on the offensive side. Those are two guys that you need to address as well if you're going to bring them back or not. So there's a lot of question marks with this Seattle team, but I think priority number one is definitely, making sure that Russell Wilson feels comfortable long term.
I agree. Alex.
I do agree that I think, keeping Russ comfortable is the priority. I don't know how they're going to do it, and I don't really know where Russ could get traded. Trade him to
Chicago. Trade
him to Houston and have just as shitty of an offensive line, and then Deshaun Watson gets to do the same thing in Seattle, and that would be really funny.
That would be funny.
It's not what I picked. I do think the offensive line is obviously a need, but the other problem is their defense. They did not get after the quarterback last year when their leading sacker is a safety. That's not a positive thing. We do know that safeties are the most important player in football, but right now that's not what the Seahawks need. They need edge rush. They need help. So if they can swing it, they might have to do. There might have to be some cuts because they don't have a ton of cap space. But Alden Smith, formerly of the Cowboys, little bit of an iffy, questionable background for sure. But he would automatically already be their best defensive, edge rusher, defensive lineman. I think, if they can get after the quarterback, that will just help kind of the flow of their games. You saw they could barely get after him, Jared Goff / John Wolford in that playoff game. So that's what I'm going for.
They broke John Wolford's neck.
That's because he dove head first. That's his own goddamn fault.
Eric, what you got?
I got to go offensive line, and they need to get Corey Linsley from the Green Bay Packers. Didn't you bring this guy up last time? Well, he is a free agent, and they need people to block if they're going to have Russell Wilson. Yeah, Russell Wilson. I almost said Westbrook. They're going to have him come back. He was running all over the place like he always does, but getting sacked by the Rams. So he needs someone to block and give him time, and that's what they need. But fuck the Seahawks. I hope they do really bad. Nobody likes them, but that's, get an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Tyler for the first time all night, and also with Eric. Priority number one is to keep Russ on the Seahawks. To keep Russ on the Seahawks, you need to get an offensive line to keep Russ happy. Biggest problem there was that guard, Damian Lewis. I mean, he was a rookie, but he allowed 4 sacks, 29 hurries, and 33 pressures over the season. You expect those numbers from a bad tackle, but as a guard, you have to be really, 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 really bad to get those numbers, and that's exactly what he is. He's not a good player. So to fix it, we're going to go to the Patriots. We're going to take Joe Thuney from the Patriots. The dude hasn't missed a game his entire career. His pass blocking grade is an 88. He's only allowed 2 sacks and 15 hurries all season long. Great guy. I think the salary commands is 2 years and $15 million. So about $7 million. So if you can make a cut somewhere, you can sign this guy. And that's going to be a huge upgrade to your offensive line.
Question is how do you cut? That's the big question.
I'm sure there's somebody that would want to be out of there and get more playing time. And it's an easy $1 million, So for the Seattle Seahawks, for them to improve, they need an offensive line. Moving on to everybody's favorite team on this podcast, except for me and Tradon, and that's the Los Angeles Rams. They finished 10-6. They lost to the Bucks. They had the best defense in the league last year, and historically a top 25 defense. They're dominant. Tyler, who do they need? And make sure you got your positions correct this time.
Yeah, working on it. So obviously, I think that they filled their biggest need, getting a new quarterback. So Matthew Stafford coming in via trade. I think they're pretty much short up. I think a couple question marks for me is, do they re-sign Leonard Floyd? This guy, on the defensive side of the ball, was one of their best players behind Aaron Donald last season. He's probably going to demand some money, which the Rams don't have a ton of. So that will be an interesting thing to play out. Also, their offensive line, Andrew Whitworth, an amazing career, amazing guy. He's going to be 40 years old. They're going to have to come up with a kind of a plan B for him. He's probably, he was out for a few weeks last season with an injury. So I think moving kind of towards the future a little bit without Whitworth on the offensive line is something to address. Maybe taking Trent Williams away from the 49ers and plugging him into our system, kind of two birds with one stone type of situation. I think would work well for the Rams there.
The problem with the Trent Williams thing is that he commands a $23 million per year salary, which you don't have.
Right.
So that may not be feasible.
Maybe he likes Los Angeles better than San Francisco and takes a pay cut.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
Alex, who you got?
Yeah. So first off, the Rams have zero money, no money. The problem is they've got a lot of money tied up in about 6 contracts. And my solution is they're going to have to cut guys. They're going to be tough decisions. Unfortunately, Michael Brockers might be one of those cuts, or he's been on the trade market. And they need, if they can, and Les Snead somehow always seems to figure it out, to restructure some of these long-term contracts to stretch them out. That's, to kind of save cap space. If it was up to me and we had infinite amount of money, I would bring back John Johnson. He's an elite safety in this league. And, obviously with AD in the front and Jalen Ramsey on the outside, they have one of the more dynamic duos in the NFL. That defense led that team last year. And, I do agree with Tyler. Already getting Matt Stafford really helps. Just minimum more consistent quarterback play should help, especially when you've got guys like Kupp and Woods and Higbee. Cam Akers, I'm thinking is going to take a big step forward. And it seems like all of their big free agents are on the defensive side. I don't think they're actually going to be able to afford John Johnson. But someone I do think they could bring back is Troy Hill. He is a bright spot on that defensive, those D-backs. But yeah, they're going to have to restructure some contracts, and they're going to have to cut some guys or make some trades because they have zero cap space right now.
Eric?
I'm going to stick to the same trend that I was talking earlier. Offensive line, I'm going to agree with Tyler on the Whitworth comment. This guy's been their veteran O-lineman. He's probably the one that, leads the pack for them. And they're going to need an answer. They're going to need a backup for him. They filled the void by getting Stafford, my most hated fantasy quarterback. So hopefully he fixes that this year. But get that guy Joe Thuney you're talking about from the New England Patriots. Guy didn't miss a game, as you said. That'd be a perfect, fulfillment for Whitworth to help lead that O-line. Or, maybe a guy like Russell Okung from the Panthers, get a guy who maybe is willing to take a little less money, but that's, a veteran presence on the O-line. Just help lead this offense with Stafford and Akers and the rest of them.
So the biggest problem, what you said, is that Andrew Whitworth is a left tackle and Joe Thuney plays right guard.
Well,
different positions.
Pick and plug,
You can
O-line is what they need.
They might as well just get a tight end, put him at the tackle position, see what happens.
Just put Higbee there. He's big enough.
He is big enough. This is a big dude. Trade.
Look, there's not much I can say. I mean, the guys kind of already kind of spelled it out. I think, to be honest, they got their biggest need in an elite, in what I think is a solid quarterback, really good quarterback, better than what they had. That was their biggest need. If you had asked us this about 4 weeks ago or whatever, that would have been everyone's answer, right? I think that's pretty clear. They don't have much money. They have negative cap space. So I think the most important need is to Alex's point, restructure contracts, shed some money so that you can bring back some key defensive guys. This team is very top heavy. That's what you need to focus on. Is you need to focus on bringing back some free agents that clearly have done it for you already. I would say Darius Williams. I know he's on a restricted free agency contract. You have to bring them back. He had a breakthrough season. You got to bring that guy back. Got to try and bring back John Johnson if you can. Troy Hill, to Alex's point, is another huge one. That's your biggest thing is to find the money. That's your need, is money. That's the need.
I like that. I agree with Tyler once again. They feel their biggest need in quarterback. If they honestly stayed with the same roster and had an upgrading quarterback, they will perform better this year. Jared Goff just wasn't it. The dude couldn't read defenses, and he faltered under pressure. Matt Stafford is used to pressure because he played in Detroit. He can do well in this offense. I expect the Rams to be a lot better this year with Stafford in center. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. They were 8-8 last year. For a team that was coached by an offensive genius, they were pretty middle of the pack offensively. And also defensively, they're also middle of the pack. So far, they have $13 million in cap room that they can spend. Alex, what is their biggest need and how do they fix it?
Yeah, so their cornerback play last year, they've had, they have guys that have been elite in the past. They are not so anymore. They need to let those guys go. There's cheaper options on the free agent market. Ronald Darby of the Washington football team or Gary Conley of the Texans are both cheaper options. They played well last year, and they will be upgrades. And they're not that expensive. And that still gives some money space to go after maybe another tight end or another receiving option for Kyler Murray. Obviously you got D-Hop, that's legit. But Larry Fitzgerald might retire. He's not the guy anymore. Getting one more great receiving option for Kyler is also a big help.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's pretty much what I was going to say too. Good stuff, man. Eric, what do you got?
They need a tight end. They need a big dude that can block, that can also be involved on the play action for Kyler Murray. Just make it more of a threat. Like everyone knows he's going to try to run it in, so people come and run at him. Get a guy like Hunter Henry, a free agent from the Los Angeles Chargers. Guy's pretty good. He'd probably fit right in, but if not him, maybe a guy like Mo Alley Cox, a guy who kind of shined last year for the Colts for a team that nobody expected to be as good as they were. And, he was a big fantasy pickup, I believe, for other people. And he could be another guy that fits in well. But Hunter Henry would be great for them.
What's wrong with their existing tight end? Dan Arnold.
Who is it?
Dan Arnold.
Yeah, I guess he's pretty good. But if you have two of them, yes! Fuck, my bad, Alex.
Oh, damn it, dude.
Dude. Holy fuck. But anyways, yeah, my bad, Alex. I'm ruining this game for you. But
it's going to be goalie interference.
No.
That's goalie interference, man.
Fuck.
All right, moving on. Trayden, what do you got?
About.
Yeah. Look, it's tough. This one's another tough one because this is clearly the toughest division in the NFL, in my opinion. I mean, these four teams are fantastic, can be fantastic. I think I don't agree with Eric because I don't think they use the tight end much in their scheme. So there's not much of a need to upgrade. I think you can do fine with what you got. I think that defensively, that's where the decisions that need to be made. They're not going to have much cap space to bring all the contributing guys back. Reddick is the highest priority. You have to bring him back. So that's the main key. Meaning, their clear need at cornerback is going to be exposed. Like they're gonna need it, and so that may be a draft type of situation, or you could look at Troy Hill. You could look at Cameron Sutton. You could look at those dudes to fill in. But I don't know that you're going to be able to if you're going to put all of your most of your funds to Reddick, because I think that he's going to be needed to to come back. He led the team's pass rush after Chandler Jones' injury this past season. He registered 12 and a half sacks. I mean, that's a high value free agent. You can't let him go. So that's your need right there. Just make sure you sign him.
That's a good point. But the thing about that is that Isaiah Simmons didn't play in many games last year, but Isaiah Simmons can play every single position in the secondary and linebacker. So it could be that hybrid position that you're looking for on a rookie contract. Towards the end of the year, Isaiah Simmons came out of nowhere and was one of their best defensive players. He just didn't play the first 8 games.
There you go.
Just a thought right there. Tyler, last but not least, what do you got?
I'm going to agree with Eric, and I'm going to go with tight end as well. I think having Hunter Henry on that team would make that team very, very good. I don't think the Chargers are going to let Hunter Henry go, though. I think that they're going to shore up that contract with him. But Zach Ertz reportedly wants out of Philly. So that could be something to look into, make a trade and get Zach Ertz there in Arizona. I think they need a little bit more of a dynamic offense, a little bit more weapons for Kyler Murray to work with, especially if Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, we don't know about Fitzgerald's future, if he's going to come back, if he's going to retire. So I think giving Kyler more weapons to work with is a huge need for the Cardinals.
Nice. I didn't think anybody would agree with Eric, but there it is. That was weird.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I agree with Alex, but my person of interest would be Quinton Denmark from Seattle. He had an injury with last season, so he's going to come pretty cheap. 2 years ago when he was with the football team, which were the Redskins at the time, he was a shutdown corner. He was one of the best corners in the league. Went to Seattle for a 1-year show-me deal, got injured, so he's going to come cheap again for another 1-year deal. If he plays to the level he played at 2 years ago, he's going to be a huge addition and a huge upgrade for the Arizona Cardinals team. Last but not least, moving on to my beloved San Francisco 49er team, 6-10 last year, tough year, a lot of injuries, $13 million in cap. Eric, what do you got?
They need a quarterback, okay? It's that simple. Jimmy G is the new Jared G of that division. He's on a short leash, I think. He had that one good year, went to the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott is still a free agent.
No, he's not.
What?
No, he's not. Not as of today. He just signed a 4-year, $160 million deal.
He did today?
So, yeah.
Okay, well, screw him. I'm glad you guys didn't get him anyways, because we wouldn't have wanted to see that. Mitchell Trubisky is a free agent. You could always go after him, James.
Whoa, wait a second. You're literally gonna come on here and tell me that Mitch Trubisky is an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo?
I would hope that the Niners would just get him, just to have him.
Why? Pay him to do what? Sit there? Guess what he's gonna do?
Advice on how to not be bad.
We can get you. You're the water boy. Come on, bro.
I could throw a touchdown more than him, probably. Fitzmagic is still around. Jameis Winston, but no. In all truthfulness, Cam Newton could be a good fit there.
Different scheme. They don't run the same scheme.
Yeah, Jimmy G just doesn't have what it takes, man.
He was injured last year.
I think Jimmy G has what it takes. You think Jimmy G has what it takes?
I'm sticking with Jimmy G as my quarterback. Unless they get Deshaun Watson.
Okay, so
I would love to have Jimmy G back.
When they start like 1-5, are you going to be like, Jimmy G is pretty good still? I think I believe in him.
No, but then that's what next year's going to tell me.
Well, that's what they need, a quarterback.
Yeah, that was stupid.
That's my take.
Trayden, what do you got?
Okay. Look, I'm not gonna come here and say quarterback unless you tell me that you can get Deshaun Watson. That's the only thing that would make sense. Look, this team was only bad because of their entire squad was injured. Like everybody was on both sides of the ball. Like that's the reality. They're likely not gonna have that next season. So they're not, even if they brought literally everybody back, which can't happen because of the free agents. They're going to be better than they were last year. Now, back to my point. It's another tough one. I think that your biggest, most important signing is Trent Williams. You got to keep him, I think. I think you got to find a way to keep him. Because if you don't, I think that's a huge that's a huge left tackle. That's a huge hole to fill. Like that's something. I don't know if he can fill it, right off the bat. So what that means is if you're going to put all your funds to Trent Williams, you need to address the cornerback group, I think. And I think that's where you're going to have to focus. Be smart with some money. You may have to go to the draft again, similar to what I just said. It's like a copy and paste here, but I also look at Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas, is that right?
Yeah.
You could sign him if the money fits. Maybe a Mike Hilton, but I think that you need to make sure that Trent Williams stays a 49er.
Yeah, to your point, Trent Williams was literally graded as the best left tackle of the entire NFL last season. So, and as I mentioned earlier, he's going to command a pay rate of 23 to 25 million per year. Guy's a monster. Tyler, what do you got?
Yeah, so I definitely think that they should entertain the Deshaun Watson possibility. They should definitely look into that. But I mean, yeah, unless they get Deshaun Watson, Jimmy G's their quarterback. But I think looking at everything else, I mean, I think Tradon's right. I mean, a lot of this, the reason why the Niners were not good last year was because of their injuries, and they're going to get a lot of those guys back. So hopefully they stay healthy and they'll be one of the top teams in that division once more. I think one spot that they could potentially fill, I think Richard Sherman may or may not come back if he does leave. I think that, they're going to need another cornerback. So Shaquille Griffin from Seattle, one of the top guys. Again, kind of what I said with, the Rams taking away Trent Williams. How about the Niners take away Griffin? So you're kind of, killing two birds with one stone, improving your team and weakening one of your division rivals. So for me, I think that would be their Niners is their biggest need.
If that happened, the Rams would have definitely won that little trade or switch, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then Alex, last but not least.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. I think first you cut D Ford. He's been pretty shit for you. You need the cap space because the rest of your defense is all free agents other than Jimmy Ward. Literally all of them feel like they're free agents. So cut D Ford, save $15.3 million in cap space, which is a huge chunk. Sign some of those defensive backs because you're going to need help. Richard Sherman is not coming back. Definitely sign some of those guys, and then use the money for Trent Williams. Just like you said, he was the best graded left tackle in the game. You need to protect your quarterback. That's how you do it, by having the best left tackle in the game. To Eric's point, I can conceive the idea that the Niners cut Jimmy G, save all that cap space, and go after one of the top guys in the draft because they do have a much higher pick than I think they were originally intending. If the Niners feel like Justin Fields is slipping, go get him. Go get him in the draft if they think they can. But I don't think it will happen. I can understand the idea of getting rid of Jimmy G, trying to get out of that contract. It definitely seems like from this point, it's too much money for one half of a good season, kind of a good second season. And then, yeah, just like everybody else, they're gonna be better on the injury front. I mean, it was unbelievable how much money and talent they had on the injured reserve last year. But if you don't think that you can do that and get better, you do play in the toughest division in football. So if you want to take a step back and rebuild for 2 years down the road, I can also see them doing that.
A lot of good points there. I like the idea of going to the draft. I'm more okay with going to the draft for a quarterback than I am of just getting Mitch Trubisky. Cheaper all the way around. Justin Fields, I said, was going to drop to 9. I don't think he's dropping any farther than 9.
I don't think so either, but
13.
Maybe they trade up.
Could you trade up?
It could. Yeah, but then you're going to have to give up a big asset. And in that case, I think the only big asset we have is Nick Bosa. And I'm not giving up.
They're not going to give him up. I don't think they will. I just think it's a possibility.
Yeah. If he drops far enough.
Yeah.
I would for sure take Justin Fields over Jimmy Garoppolo, just based off potential and how much cheaper he actually will be.
Rebuild around that.
Yeah. And to be honest, if they do get Justin Fields, I don't know if it'll be a rebuild year. Justin Fields has enough good poise and talent to play in an NFL system, and surrounded with good people and a good coach, I think he might be somewhat successful. But going to my need, I went different than everybody else here. Some of you said offensive line, but named the left tackle in Trent Williams. I'm going to go center. The Niners were 26 out of 32 in terms of pass blocking. Their number one center from 2 years ago, Weston Richburg, was out all of last season due to injuries. And they had 4 different people playing the center position. And like I've mentioned time and time again, the most important position in football is the center. They command your offensive line. They call out pass blocks. They call out blitz formations. They set the cadence. If you don't have a good center, you most likely will not have a good offensive line. Weston Richburg will be cut, much like D Ford, injury-riddled season, commanded a huge pay, like huge. I think he is at 15 mil, and D Ford is also 15 mil. So getting those two off the books, you do have some dead cap there, but that frees up almost 20 to 25 million right there in cap space. So that gives you a lot of money to maneuver through that. The way they fill it, you guys have mentioned it before. I think Tyler mentioned it, but I think you go Alex Mack from the Falcons. He's played in a Kyle Shanahan system before. They were successful when Kyle Shanahan and Alex Mack were on the same team. Alex Mack is going to be a Hall of Famer for center. I don't think there's any questions about that. He's one of the most dominant centers to play. He's 35 years old right now, so he's not going to play for any team. He's going to play for a team he wants that's a contender and a team that he's comfortable with. And there's no other team like the 49ers that fit both those qualifications. So I think Alex Mack will indeed be a 49er by the end of this offseason. And that is my segment, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Once again, these are always fun to go around and, try and play GM for a little bit. It's always a good time. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to finish off with our last segment of the podcast. Eric is going to talk golf once again. The PGA Players Championship is this weekend, and we're going to dive into it. Stay tuned. All righty, everyone. Welcome back to our last segment of the podcast. We're hitting the links, and Eric is going to take us through this weekend's Players PGA Tournament. Eric, take it away.
Yes, more golf. It's been a while since we talked about it. It always gets mentioned somewhat. But back to our golf segments. We got the Players Championship coming up. People like to call it the 5th major. And it is in Florida. Again, will be the 3rd week in a row of a Florida tournament. Everyone just wants to go to Florida. Ever since the world shut down, they're the only ones who stayed open. It seems like everyone's having fun out there. Speaking of guys having fun, our boy Bryson DeChambeau always gets mentioned when we talk golf, but guess what? He won yet another tournament this past weekend. He won the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Is it, James, I think you will be answering this question. Is it time we finally give DeChambeau some credit? And does he have a chance this weekend?
Yeah. Who hasn't given Bryson credit?
Dude, we give him credit every time we talk about
it. That was a dumb question.
Jeez,
to be honest,
this isn't a debate here. This is just a answer the question.
Sorry, my bad. I apologize, Eric. But yeah, we should definitely give him more credit than we're doing now. Because right now, when you think of Bryson DeChambeau, you think of muscles, you think of roids, you think about, as Eric so affectionately termed it, the fat golfer. But he's really not that fat. Like, that dude's just muscly. So when people think of him, they think of that. They don't really think about his golf skill as much. And I think that does a disservice to him, because he is a damn good golfer, and he was a good golfer before this was his thing, before he was termed the scientist because of what he's doing for his body. Like, he made the PGA Tour. Like, he's gonna be a good golfer. Give him the credit he's due. Overall in his career, he's won 8 times in the PGA Tour and won a major championship, which happened last year. Do they go by seasons? Is that how golf works? Is that a season?
Yeah, I guess that's considered like this season still, but it was 2020. But it was one of the majors of this season.
Yeah, the season ends at the FedEx Cup. Like, they play they rank them, and then they play the playoffs. This is like a 3 or 4 weekend thing.
Okay.
Yes to the answer of your question.
To answer the second part of that question, does he have a chance this weekend? And in golf, I think everybody has a chance. You can't really count anybody out. If you make the cut, I mean, you could just have a good couple of days and get lucky and hit, and maybe other guys have bad days. It's really just tossing up in the air. It's like nobody wins consistently, unless you're Tiger Woods back in the day. But there's always going to be somebody new taking that win. I I think he definitely has a better than average shot, though. He's been on a winning tear since last year. He's won 3 PGA events since last year. His confidence is huge in golf. Coming off a dub, like he's going to be in an all-time high. So I think he's definitely has a good shot of winning this event as well.
Yeah. The reason I say, like, do we finally give him credit? People love to hate on him. We all know that. He is kind of a quirky, dorky dude, nerdy type of guy. And he answers questions like in the weirdest form ever, always, which is actually something I do like about him. Like, I was watching the tournament this Sunday, and my roommate was like, "Oh, I hope he fucking misses this putt." And like every time he says that, he like makes a long, like difficult putt. He just held onto his lead this past Sunday and pulled it off. But yeah, you're right. Golf is so inconsistent. It's so hard to tell like who's gonna win that week. Maybe we should do a DraftKings. Who knows? Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, he has a chance just like everybody else. Let's get on to the next question here. Rory McIlroy, he won this tournament last year. Yesterday in this Arnold Palmer Invitational tournament, he started 3 strokes back. I think he was in 3rd or 4th place. And he shit the bed in the back 9. He hit it in the water twice on the same hole, something that I feel like everybody does when they go golfing, no matter what course you're on. Tradon, what is it going to take for him to win this tournament again, if he even has a chance? And what the hell happened to him yesterday?
Yeah. Well, first I'll tip my cap to Bryson. He's just, I don't like him, but he's a fantastic golfer. He's fun to watch. I'll give him that. As for Rory, I love Rory. But look, it seems like what happened yesterday, he's starting to face a little bit of, I don't know if it's jitters, and I don't know if it's lacking in confidence within himself at certain times. We all know it all happens even when we play our Saturday, casual game. You'll have a great hole and you're living on high, and then all of a sudden you hit it into the water once or twice and it completely changes your mindset. And he's just feeling the good parts, and then he's feeling the bad parts, and he's not maintaining that consistency that we've seen from him back in 2019 when he won this tournament. He's the reigning champion for this tournament. I know we'll say last year because they had to cancel it last year, but he is the reigning Players Champion, but he's not favored to win because he just hasn't had that consistency. That said, he has had a pretty good solid start to the season. He's been in the top 10 3 times, top 20 twice. He did miss the cut once, which is very rare for him. But solid enough to be in the discussion. What I think he needs to do is he just needs to remain confident in himself, take it shot by shot, and don't let one shot kind of put you down. I know that he's struggling with that right now, and I know how that feels. I'm kind of in that situation personally with the game of golf. I haven't had a very good round for a few months, and it's tough. Not that I don't want to play, but it's tough to get out there and have the confidence to hit a ball. And I'm a scrub. I mean, I'm terrible. So I can only imagine what it's like for a professional like him. So I think he just needs to take it shot by shot, focus, and try to get out of your head. That's it.
Yeah, he's got some yips going. It's simple to say, like, just be confident with your irons. He's trying to like outdrive it, I feel like, on that one.
Yeah, he is. He's playing a little too aggressive, even more so than Bryson. And that's Bryson's game, and yeah. So maybe that's not the way to go.
Yeah, I guess depending on I feel like there's no way he misses the cut, and then hopefully he's in a good enough spot like on Saturday to slowly build up on Sunday, because Saturday he went off this past tournament, and then like they interviewed him, he said like he mentioned like he was in tiger mode or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he was like, I don't know, he kind of jinxed himself. He got a little cocky. Maybe he was doing that to give him a shout out after all the gnarly shit that just happened with him. But nonetheless, it's very simple. Loud. be confident with the irons and try not to be in your head so much. It's easy for us to say, but it's just it's such a weird sport. But I'm weird too. I think that's why I like it. On to our next topic of this tournament. Like I said earlier, another tournament in Florida. This will be the third week in a row. Tyler, the guys that have been making the cut, maybe even the guys that haven't been making the cut, is this an advantageous thing or a disadvantage almost, being in Florida for another week playing golf? Does it help, knowing the weather conditions and things like that, or is it something that kind of fucks with your head?
Yeah, golf obviously is a very, very mental game. I think it would help. I think being in the same climate and playing kind of around the same type of weather and same courses. The grass in Florida is actually a little bit different than some other parts of the country. They use that Bermuda grass, which is a little bit thicker. It runs a little bit different. So getting used to that, could be a reason why some guys have missed the cut, and hopefully why guys will kind of, start to play better, and just kind of getting used to things. Golf can be such a finicky sport. It's these, little tiny little details can throw off your whole day. So I would think it would help being in Florida. This time of year in Florida it's actually pretty nice weather-wise. Obviously, the wind can be a factor. It can be a little bit windy. But these are pro golfers. They're used to being able to play in these kind of conditions. They're used to be able to adapt. Because if you don't, you're not going to win. So I think being in the same area is definitely going to be an advantage for, I think, most guys. Yeah,
and according to Wikipedia, this course, TPC Sawgrass, Wikipedia says it's one of the most difficult golf courses in the world. So of course we should believe that. But it is riddled with waste bunkers, pot bunkers, tons of hazards, and
alligators.
I mean, the name Sawgrass, that sounds like something that's not to your advantage. I don't really know exactly what Sawgrass is, but Sawgrass probably isn't a good thing when it comes to golf. What just came to my mind, Alex, like if you were ever involved in golf, you'd probably be really good at designing a golf course. Cause I think like a lot of these big courses, like they purposefully make them to like fuck people up. Like they design these courses to make like the pros like shoot shitty shots, like, and if they shoot it into the rough, it's super long grass and it fucks their shot up, and it gets them like all in their head. I feel like if you ever found a way into golf, it'd be like designing a course to fuck people over. Is that just too crazy of a take, or would you?
I mean, I would do it just so you guys could play, and then I want to see which one of you would cry first. So I think like I would make it as hard as possible, especially if like I knew you guys were going to play on it.
No, Tyler.
Yeah, I'd also
like which one of us like would just get in our heads super hard and just never want to play again.
Yeah, and I still vote for Tyler.
Be me.
But I do like that. Maybe I should see if that's a profession I can get into.
Yeah, like it was something that was coming up on like when I was researching the course. Like it was like the guys who made this course like have like made it the hardest course ever for a while, and I was like, oh, I never thought about it from that side. Last question. For Alex, because he's not the biggest golf guy in the world, but I wanted to tie some sort of interest into it. All these, golf guys you see, like their sponsors, all the different brands. There's so many different brands. If you were in the golf world, like what would be your best sponsors and what would be your worst sponsors? It could be like anything. Like it could be like food. It could be like clothing.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you're a big Ricky Fowler guy. I personally think his look is pretty trash. I'm just going to put that out there. So when I was kind of thinking of guys like that, I know I don't like their look, and Ricky Fowler has, like his bright orange or whatever. I was thinking like if someone was sponsored by like McDonald's or In-N-Out or something and had like bright yellow pants and like a bright red shirt or flip flop, that'd be terrible. That's like an awful look. What I do want to see is someone sponsored by Disney, and specifically the Marvel side. I want someone rocking like a Spider-Man polo out there, or like Black.
Yeah,
that would be tight. I would watch more golf if the guys were dressed up like if that was their look. I think that'd be sick. You walk up, take off the Iron Man mask, and then just hit a ball. Like, how tight
So
would
they
that
have a
be?
mask and everything.
Dude,
like a
I
helmet.
like that.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that'd be sick. I would watch golf if that's what it was.
DeChambeau is
didn't-
definitely Iron Man for sure.
I didn't think of it that way, like
it'd be
Boba
the
Fett or
Hulk, bro.
something.
Yeah, or like a Star Wars character or something. Yeah, like
I think
that would be cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to run it around to everybody else. For me, like the worst possible, kind of going with Alex would be Subway. Tyler, I know this would be your best.
Damn, Tyler.
Wow.
Imagine being like in the yellow and green, like yellow and green colors, and like you're sponsored by Subway, so you just get free Subway all the time, which everybody hates except Tyler. I think Spalding would be a terrible sponsor because they make basketballs and soccer balls and things with rubber, nothing to do with golf. I think
They actually
like
have Spalding
soccer
golf
brands,
clubs.
huh?
They actually have Spalding golf clubs and Spalding golf balls, but
Do they? Well, they're probably not the best, and I wouldn't want to be sponsored by them. But I actually put for a good sponsor would be In-N-Out, but maybe not the colors, just like to get the food, of course.
Well, that would be ideal.
Yeah, but yeah, the colors would be a little questionable, just like those bright clown shoes. But you know, Puma, I love the Puma stuff. It doesn't have to be bright orange. Travis Matthew, of course.
I want to kind of combat against Alex's hate for the In-N-Out look. So he went with the bright red and the bright yellow, putting that together as a bad look, right? But if you look at In-N-Out and the workers, they're in all white all the time. It's an all white with the In-N-Out logo like right here. I think that would look pretty clean, and they have to wear those apron things so you can put your golf balls in there.
Do you wear the little hat?
perfect.
Yeah, they got to wear that hat too.
I could kind of
Keeps
keep
the
that.
sweat out.
I mean, hey, that's what they do at Wimbledon for tennis. You got to wear all white. That's the thing.
Yeah.
the only
Look
issue
cool.
with that, James, is you may look like your caddy.
Yep. I was gonna say.
And you know what? Be humble. It teaches you
I'll
from
take
the games.
I'll take that.
Okay.
I think
Tradon, what are your best and worst?
Shit, I don't know. I haven't even thought about this. I like
Orange and
Titleist.
blue.
I'm a big Titleist guy, so anybody wearing Titleist stuff's cool. I actually love Alex's take on the best. I think that's awesome.
I think it'd be so sick.
Yeah,
Like-
and the worst. You guys kind of nailed it. I wouldn't want to dress up as a billboard for freaking any fast food
Subway.
except Chick-fil-A. I'll give
But they
Chick-fil-A
play
the
on
nod.
Sundays, dude. That's a tough part.
Oh, you would
Why-
just be a
why do people crave on
then you
Sundays?
just wear it Saturday and you have a different one for Sunday. I don't know.
Kane Sundays.
There you go.
Yeah. Tyler, any input? You were going to say something and I interrupted you as usual.
Yeah, brutal. I think they should every Halloween weekend they should do like a charity golf tournament and just have golfers just like one day, maybe 2 days, just have them dressed in crazy costumes. They have to play the full round in the costume and just do it for fun. Do like
I like
just a fun
that.
like charity golf tournament. Just dress in the most ridiculous costumes. I want to see a pro golfer golf in that like inflatable T-Rex costume and just see what happens.
And then have him run after his ball.
Yeah, exactly. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you were going to say a Star Wars guy. I'm a little disappointed in you.
I mean,
but,
they can dress up as Darth Vader on the Halloween.
That'd be
tournament.
sick. That'd be sick.
and have
Or Stormtrooper,
lifesavers for
whatever.
clubs. That's getting too nerdy.
There we go. I love it.
Venom would be cool, like Spider-Man and Venom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That would be neat.
but
just go all out. You know they have the money to go full out on these costumes, so just do it.
yeah.
Man, we
Normally like I would give like, you know, rundown of guys who are like projected to win, but it's so inconsistent and I'm never right with that. And I feel like none of us are. So I'm not going to do that anymore unless it's requested. And that is all I have this week for the golf talk.
Thank you, Eric. We look forward to another exciting weekend of golf. It should be another great one. So keep an eye on that Players Tournament this weekend over in Florida. And that is going to do it for episode 37 of TLDR Podcast. For those of you that are hopping on listening, we really appreciate your support. Thank you for listening. And have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time.